we'll get him all fixed up. Now what you'll notice here, he has a purge kit for his nitrous, and he just had a line kind of sticking up here purging it, but it was nothing else in it. And what's happened is moisture's got down in here and it looks like crap, and eventually water can get down in this line the way it was sitting like this and get down in the solenoid and actually freeze up the solenoid. He's had one solenoid go bad, which I switched out for him years ago. So I'm going to actually change that setup. So what he doesn't know yet is I've already ordered a new setup. So instead of that one line, I've got a T-fitting I'm gonna put into the solenoid and two hard lines that's gonna come out, and I'm gonna run them out through the opening here and tie them up and have it where it comes out as a V shape. So it's gonna be really trick when he hits the purge. Instead of just one shot over here, it's gonna be like a V shape. So I think he's gonna like that. It's gonna be really cool. So remember when I told you had a single purge on this car and a line? Well, here's the line. I've already pulled it back through since I just got through doing the coating on the car, and I got the little grill here off. So I decided he needs an upgrade. So here's what just came in the mail. This is the nitrous outlet dual purge fitting and line kit. So now I've got two hard lines and this T-fitting, and basically the T-fitting screws, this screws into the solenoid, and then it gives you these little adapters here on the end of the line. They screw onto these fittings, and then I can bend the hard line as I want. And I'm gonna bend them to come out of the solenoid, go through this hole, and I'm gonna bend them so it's got like a V shape, if you will, so he'll have the dual purge now. That's freaking cool. Dual purge, and that's how it looks in here, and it comes out here, and I'm gonna paint these black just so they blend in a little more. But the owner Gabe came over and he got to try out the purge. He was real happy with it. He was tickled to death how the car looks. Unfortunately, the car's been sitting here for a few days and it's got some leaks under it. One is the oil pan's leaking, the drain plug for the Canton's leaking. It looks like the valve cover gaskets are leaking a little bit, but the biggest thing is the drain plug's leaking and dripping. So I'm gonna change the oil. So I've got 5 quarts of 10W30 and a new Motorcraft FL1A filter. I'm gonna do it because when you pull the drain plug, of course, all the oil comes out. The oil's dirty, so I told him it's a good time to go and change the oil, so I'm gonna change the oil for him. And the Canton oil pan's notorious. They got a copper crush O-ring, and I have extras because I have Canton pans. Gonna put a new copper crush O-ring on it and fix that from leaking. We'll get that squared away, change the oil while I'm in there. Also, just doing some routine maintenance here. The air filter that goes right in here has a cover over it. And I looked at it and I was like, man, I don't think that filter's been cleaned since I put this Vortec kit on it 10 plus years ago. And sure enough, this is the Canon filter, and as you can tell, it is nasty. So imagine just trying to run and breathe through that. So the best way to clean that is I get a bucket of water and soap, Dawn dishwashing soap, hot water. I dump it in there, swish it around, get it real clean, rinse it out, dry it out, and then I recharge it. I just do a little light oil recharge on it. Sometimes I'll even put oil on it, and then I'll put it back in place. Also, there's a filter that goes from this tube and goes here where you do the oil fill. And what it does is it actually tries to keep a little bit of that pressure out of the system and acts as a recirculating valve. This was his original one that came in the Vortec kit. I looked at the part number from Napa, it's a 3033. Well, Wix has a replacement, so I went ahead and got one. It's a 33033. It looks like this. And it's just a simple filter. They call it a fuel filter, I believe. But I'm gonna change that. So that's the old one in the box. Just want to show it to you. It's now in the trash. This is gonna go on here to this line. And basically it's gonna help pull some of the air in and recirculate it. So anyway, just little stuff that I like to do, just cause it's here, just maintenance, you know, taking care of that. So I'm gonna fix the oil leak, clean the air filter, and that's gonna take care of that. Unfortunately, he also has a water leak. Now, he just took it to the shop and they replaced the water pump because they said that was their diagnostic. The water pump was leaking and they put a new water pump on it. Unfortunately, just sitting here, it had a puddle of green antifreeze under it. I started looking at it and it's leaking out of the radiator. So it looks like it's leaking somewhere in the body of the radiator. So I won't know till I get the radiator out. If you got a Fox body, don't forget, there's oil in the front sump here. You gotta take it loose as well. So I've already put a brand new copper O-ring back here, if you can see it. And somebody had put not a copper O-ring in this thing. It was like one of those aftermarket rubber on a washer type of kits to keep it from leaking. Whoever did his oil change for him, that's not the right thing for a Canton pan. It needs this copper crush O-ring, which I have now installed into it. While I was in here, I found the old dipstick, well, the Canton dipstick, which we don't use. It's a little Allen head piece right there, and it was leaking. Took it out, there was no sealant on it, so I went ahead and put some sealant on it and tightened it up. And I took my brake cleaner, and you see I've cleaned up all the oil residue on everything around here, and the transmission and the rear seal, and hopefully this thing isn't leaking from the rear seal as well, and try to clean up best I can. So hopefully we won't have any other leaks, but if we do, we'll be able to identify them easier now. So now we're going to take off this front drain here. Okay, well, might need a two-hander for this. Man, that's tight. Dude, by looking at the corrosion on it, you know, this thing's been off in a minute. And that's the thing about a lot of shops. A lot of shops don't realize that the Mustang has a front and rear sump on it when they go to change the oil. So he probably went to a quick lube or some place like that and they didn't change it, because that thing is pretty tight. So I'm gonna pop that loose real quick, get that little bit of oil that's in the front out, make sure you get some proper oil change. I'll show you the sway bar bushings blowed out, if you can't already see it. See right there, hanging out the back, broken right here. So, and it's actually split down here. So this whole upper and lower set needs to be replaced. And come over here, this one is not that great at the top. The bottom don't look bad, but so I'm gonna replace both top and bottom. And while we're here, might as well show you the rear shocks I was talking about. So here's the rubber. The rubber is all deteriorated and pushed out. But the biggest thing is, see all this wetness? That's the oil coming out of the shock. That's why it's all this dirt and debris, because the oil is actually coming out of the shock body and running down. It's doing it on both sides. See this? So that's why it's all wet, and that's why the rubber's all pushed out. These shocks are garbage. So this is why I'm gonna change the rear shocks, and he's gonna be good to go. Now what's interesting is, if you look, he's still running the stock lower control arms and stock upper control arms and upper bushings here. But you can see they're cracked. I mean, that's just, I mean, this car makes 600 horsepower, you know, at the back tires. So, but anyway, put the shocks on it, should be good. You know, if he was gonna do some racing stuff later, I'd say put some upper and lower control arms and change these bushings out. But you know what, he's good. And some subframe connectors wouldn't hurt this car. All Fox bodies could use some subframe connectors. But for now, we're doing the basic safety stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and switch out these bushings. Just got through changing oil. Got a brand new copper O-ring here. You can see it. Got that off, changed the copper O-ring. Just changed the oil filter. And I gotta put oil in it when I get it down. But for now, because up, I'll switch out these bushings in the front. That'll take care of that. The shocks won't be here for a couple days. All right, that's part of the working on the Fox body. Here's a brand new fuel filter. It looked like the fuel filter hadn't been changed in the car. So, let me show you. See there? Looks like the, it looks like the clip hasn't been out. So, we're gonna pop the clip out. We're gonna change that filter real quick. See on both sides, pretty obvious the clip hasn't been out. So we're gonna change that filter, put a brand new filter in it. Just little maintenance stuff to do while it's up here. And yeah, just getting the car right. Perfect. While I was in here, I pulled the spark plugs and checked them, and they looked good, and the gap was good on them, so they're fine. But I also like to check the cap and rotor, so I popped this off and looked. If you look in here, you see how rough that looks. This cap's been on here for quite a while. And same thing with the rotor. When you pull this off, if they look and you see carbon tracking, what they call it, see how that black looks in here, and see how the edge of this looks, and it's real rough like that and beat up. This just needs to be replaced. So these are cheap. I think the cap and rotor together is like 40, 50 bucks, but I'm gonna go ahead and get him a new cap and rotor for it and swap those into place. Like I say, the spark plugs look good and they're gap fine. Air filter's been cleaned, this new inline filter, a new fuel filter in the back. So the air, fuel, and spark are gonna be good to go. This thing's gonna be tuned up, 100% ready from that. All right, and here's the new cap and the new rotor and the new upper radiator hose, which I actually have to cut and modify this piece because all I need is just this little kind of elbow right here. So I've got to make that piece out of this piece. So as you can tell, got to cut that down and make this like that. But the reason is it's actually been rubbing on the back, and I can show you when I get it off. All right, so I've got the supercharger belt off, as you can see there. And I've already repaired the loose bolt and replaced the nut. You can see it right back there. It is now got a nut on it right back in there. So basically there's a bolt up here and the bolt down there, and they both had to have nuts on them. So there was no nut on the bottom and there was no nut on the top. So those are 3/8. I had to get 2 3/8 nuts. Actually, I had some here at the shop. So I put 3/8 nut on each one, tightened down, and now that is fixed. During my test drive, I discovered that the supercharger belt was slipping on the pulley. But not only was it slipping on the pulley, it was actually digging into the back of the electric fan right up there. So if I can get a light, and I'll show you more what that looks like. Let's go up in here. So if you can see that line across the back of the fan motor there, that shouldn't be like that. By comparison, here's this one. There's no line on the back of the motor. And this one has a telltale sign there, pretty bad, where the supercharger belt was dragging on it. Now, part of that was because the whole radiator was pushing in. Oh, as you can see, had a radiator leak, been leaking on the floor. It definitely coming from the radiator. And they had put a water pump on it, and you can see it's up in there. And it had an oil pan leak, which I just changed the oil in it and I drove it. And it took 7 quarts of oil, because this is not a stock oil pan. Stock oil pans take 5. This is a Canton oil pan, so it actually takes 7. So I had to put 7 quarts of oil in it to make it hit the dipstick before I did my test drive. One thing is the drain plugs are perfectly dry now. I fixed it. This one's actually leaking because it didn't have a copper crush O-ring. This one wasn't leaking, but I put a new crush O-ring on it. But as you can see right here, see the telltale sign of oil dripping. And if you look, because I cleaned it really well, you can see it's leaking right off the back there of what appears to be the back of the pan where the rear seal would be. All right, so first thing is this won't fit in here. So it's easy enough. We'll take something and we'll just spread this out just a hair, and then they'll drop right in. Put the rubber on here, and then they'll slide right up in there. All right, so we're waiting on some parts to come in. First thing here is the radiator is out because it had a leak. Took me a while to diagnose it. He just had a water pump put on, and when he got here, it still had a leak under it. The leak ended up being the radiator. As I identified, the supercharger was pushing into the electric fans. These are the electric fans. And just to show you, this is where the belt was running into it. This is the side it wasn't, the side it is. Pretty obvious here. You've been driving into it pretty hard there. Like, I mean, this is metal and this is plastic. And yeah, it's eating into it pretty good there. Now what I want to show you here is, I went to take the supercharger belt off, and because I got a new one coming for it, and I noticed that there's 3 bolts that basically hold this bracket on, and they go on here like this, and then this bracket actually slides down to give tension on the belt, up to loosen it, and down to tighten it.
Budweiser presents Real Men of Genius. Real Men of Genius.
What you'll notice here is you see threads in here and you see threads down here. What you don't see is threads right here. Now this is the pivot. This is where this is supposed to go into here and actually pivot. And you're like, well, why aren't there threads in there? Well, that's a good question. The threads are actually right here on this bolt. So apparently at some point, somebody had over tightened the bolt and stripped it out. So the threads were in here on the bolt. When I went to loosen it, you could tell it was over tightened and messed the threads up. So when there's only 3 bolts holding this bracket, basically that can keep it from having the proper tension on the belt, because that's the pivot point, and there's 2 other bolts that hold it tight. But again, you need all 3 to keep the most tension on it. So that may be a reason why it wasn't keeping a lot of tension on the belt, maybe causing some belt slip. As you can see right here on the pulley's very shiny, which could indicate the belt was slipping on it, causing it to be really shiny like that. I have a way to repair this. It's called a helicoil insert, which is pretty common how to fix these. You basically drill this out a little bit, you put this insert in, which is a little bit oversized, and you twist that in and secure it, and then the factory bolt here will screw into there, and it should be just as strong, if not stronger, than it was before. But I've got to wait for that to come in so I can repair it. Leak from the radiator, I got a brand new radiator coming for it. And then once I fix the radiator leak, which originally what I found when I pulled the car in to get it detailed that day, hopefully everything else is taken care of. So while it was here and I had free time, I went ahead and I found his spark plug wire had burned, so I taped it up and got it fixed. I tied everything up out of the way so they're not going to lay on the headers anymore. Tied them up here nice and neat. So overall, I think the car has a better bill of health now than when it arrived. And just got to get the radiator put in it and fix that. Get the belt on it, get the leak fixed, and hopefully when I get this radiator in here and get it all sorted, the belt and the supercharger won't be driving into the back of the electric fan. So I've still got to sort that issue out, make sure I've got enough clearance so we don't have a repeat of whatever's going on over here when this thing was actually digging into the back of this fan motor. So it is Thursday the 26th. Again, just waiting on parts. I think the radiator will be here tomorrow. The belt should be here today. I don't think the repair kit for the bolt hole will be here till tomorrow as well. So maybe by the weekend, I'll have all the parts here and I can go through and actually repair this thing and get it back together. And then I'll be able to do another startup, make sure everything looks good, and then do another test drive. And then hopefully it won't identify any other problems on the next test drive. But that's how you fix it. You fix it, you go for a test drive, you see if it identifies anything wrong, and then you come back and fix it again. So hopefully now I'll have the car pretty much dialed in for him after these round of mods, and then he'll be ready to go. Because again, you want to give something back to somebody that's perfect. He didn't know he had all these problems. He knew he had a leak. He didn't know what the culprit was. Again, he just had a shop put a water pump on it, and they thought that was the problem, but that wasn't the sole problem. And he had a fuel pump put on it, and that was an intermittent problem that he had, and that fixed that issue, because driving the car around, it started perfect every time and drove fine, but the leak is still there. So hopefully we can fix that now, and other than that, it's getting there. So just want to keep you updated. Here's some of the mechanical things I'm finding, and we'll get her all fixed up and back together. But again, while I've got it here, I've been trying to do some more wipe down under the hood and just kind of, you know, tidy it up a little bit in here. But yeah, it's disappointing when you find stupid things like this, you know, but it happens. You know, it's not the first time I've seen that happen before.